All right. So even for startups, and it's even more important because every once in a while you want to show to the investors, whether it's the current investors or the potential investors, okay, the progress. All right. And a lot of accelerator program, like the most famous one is called YC, and they basically invite all the teams to participate in their program. 3 months, they give you $100,000, sometime maybe more right now, and then to guide you to work on your prototype. At the very end of the program, every team need to go to the state to run this kind of a demo to show what you have. And then the accelerator program will invite a lot of the investors to be in the audience and then to see all the demos. And obviously after the demo day, they're gonna do a lot more follow-ups and see if there's any kind of deals and investment that can do. All right. So every team only has like 2 minutes to show the project, 2.5 minutes, a really short one, but you want to show the best, to all the investors. These are some of the things we did in the early days that we do the startup, right? So besides the accelerator program, you often need to do a lot of sales, marketing, and you go to the events like this. This is, I think, it's called the South by Southwest. It's a very big festival in Austin, Texas, every year. One of the theme is about startups. So a lot of companies will set up the booths like this, and then, obviously people walking around, and then you're gonna show and talk to them. All right, so looks very fun, but it's a very, very tired kind of event to go. Okay, as a visitor, it's cool. You can check out different things, but as the one who hosts this one, it's exhausting because you had to talk to people the same thing and again and again. Standing there in the booth is it's not a fun thing. Okay, but it's very exhausting, but at the same time very rewarding. Okay, but how do you actually quickly and effectively demonstrate a lot of these features you have to impress people? That also takes a lot of efforts. And then also, as I shared with you in the early days of the semester, that as you run a startup, you have to go to the different customers, different potential clients, demo your project. They did most time you do it online, and again, running in a very concise, very effective way is important. Even you're not doing startup, okay, as a software engineer, you also need to run the demos. A lot of companies at the end of the Scrum, was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they will organize a demo day or demo afternoon, normally a couple hours. And then so that they let every team member to show whether they have built over the past 2 weeks. One way to give people opportunity to kind of demonstrate their progress. The other thing is that so that every team can be on the same page. Because a lot of times you just talk about this one during a Scrum meeting, still people don't get it. And by seeing that, that's actually more effective. And once again, this type of demo, you don't have to do like a long, very formal demo, but you gotta be showing really, really good one. By watching all the demos over, the past 10 years here, uh, from our students, okay? And every time we will see some of the demo are more organized, more effective, more impressive than the others, okay? And I'll probably try to summarize some of the things that you shouldn't do. For example, a lot of the time, when you do the live demo, student will actually spend maybe just 2 minutes to type the email and password to show us a sign up page, which is totally not necessary. All right. So you should just get a very nice account and then log in, show us the most interesting, most fun part of the project. Okay. So details like that. Okay. That will make your demo much more interesting. Okay. So very important skill. For the ones who've been to hackathon, you probably also know normally at the end you got to show some kind of demo. I know sometimes you submit the video, but some now that they just let judges to see the live demo. This is this hack poly. Is this thing still existing? Do you know? Yeah, from our campus. Oh, Bronco Hacks. Okay, I don't know if this is the same organization. But they used to call Hack Poly. This was 2015, I think. I was one of the judges. I was in that business like a big lecture hall. Now probably much bigger. I feel the hackathon is not as popular as probably 5 years ago, and but still good event to participate. But at the end, this is running a demo. That's a very important thing for every team to do, just like startups. Okay. All right. To summarize, so the demos is really important, okay, for software engineers. If you think about all these leaders, okay, or if you even early day like Bill Gates and some other like CEOs, and a lot of those they are good programmers, okay, like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they can write a code, but same time they're pretty good speakers too, okay. I think it's not a coincidence. It's just you just be able to, um, effectively communicate or sell your product, and all of those actually shows your ability on running on the demos and presentations. Okay, so I just want to show you that's actually more important than just running another presentation. Now, for the final project, we want you to run a investor pitch kind of presentation. Okay. Previously, I just want you to show the live demo. I don't need you to bring bar slides, but this time we need slides and we need something more formal. I want you to treat this one as your personal startup project. That was the expectation from early days, identifying the problem, building the solution, building the prototype, and now you should show us the final project. And then assume that you're going to show this one to some of the potential customers. Sorry, investors. Okay. And how do you impress them to want to, put some money on your project so they can grow? All right. So this is a kind of a tentative outline I put together. I did not create this one. It's just coming from most of the demos. You can see all the professional or investor pitch kind of a product demos. You can find a lot of those from YouTube. Okay, but these are the key aspects, and you should follow this one exact order. Try to prepare for your presentation. Okay. So the first one is always start from the problem. Okay. You don't want to go there to introduce your team and then start to talk about, I'm going to show you kind of a AI-based platform, whatever, talk a lot about technology, a full stack stuff. Don't talk about technology in the beginning. Okay. Start any of your presentation with stories. Okay. Talking about life, talking about experiences, because those are the things that people can remember. Because every team is going to talk about AI, and every team is going to talk about some kind of I don't know, agents or tech stuff. Okay, it's boring. Okay, there's nothing you can do differently from others most time. Okay, but the story is unique. Okay, share the personal story experience, the story people can remember, and use that one to talk about problems. Always start from the problems. And then a lot of people are very, very picky on this one, especially the ones from the business domain. Because for any kind of investor, they know that this is the very first step you have to make correctly in order to guarantee a success startup. There are a lot of other factors that will affect your eventual result, but this is the first step. If you got this one wrong, and the rest will be useless. Okay, you got to convince people there is a very specific, concrete, real problem that exists. Okay, so definitely important. This is a project that I saw back in 2015 from the Hack Poly, the picture I showed earlier. One of the teams, I think it was from CS department, and then they went there to make this Raspberry Pi project that shows some kind of LED lights. You can control the lights and then show different kind of pattern. And that year, I think the hackathon was, I think it was 36 hours. It started on Friday afternoon, overnight, and then Saturday evening, we did the judging. Most of the students actually did sleep over in the lecture hall. I don't know how many of the hackathon today still over 24 hours. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the students were very excited to show the demo in the stage. And I saw this project, I thought it's cool, pretty interesting. You got both hardware and software. But for me, I know it's still just interested in doing some kind of a embedded software development using Raspberry Pi to run some cool project, fun project. I didn't think about this is going to be a business project. But to my surprise, I think at least two, three other judges, most of them from business department, they just keep, grill the students with the question, what's the problem you're trying to solve? I was like, well, come on, it's obviously they're not trying to solve any problem. They're just trying to build a hobby project. But they are very serious asking that question still. Okay. And obviously the student had no preparation. And I still remember they just said, well, maybe we're just trying to solve the problem of being bored. Okay. So I showed this sample just to let you know that if you go professional in the professional world, you should try to jump out of the student community. Okay, really try to show things also in a professional way, and people are gonna look at this question in the very beginning, and make sure that you can prepare that to answer that very, very well. Okay, which is really important. Again, very first step you have to make for your startup journey. Okay. After showing the problem, dive into the demo. Okay, you don't have to talk a lot of the slides about the architecture, my full stack, I use this tool or that tool. Keep those later on. Okay, let me show you our solution and let me show you a live demo with it. Again, if you have the opportunity to run a live demo, always run a live demo. That's why if you go to look at all the big company presentation today, they most time run live demo. Very rarely they do the videos. Okay. In our course, we got a time, so we want you to run live demo. Some of the professional pitch, they give you 2 minutes. You don't have time to set up the demo. That's fine. But for our class, we need a live demo because that's convincing. And also it's more fun to watch, right? Otherwise, we look at a screen and look at a video. It's not very interesting. Okay. Don't speak too much about technical stuff. Show the demo, show the solution. Okay. Right after your problem. Okay. The demo part, obviously, you wanna prepare for that. Okay, you don't want to just go there randomly click on different things and then crash your own project. You're gonna make sure you prepare. You know which part of work, which one is not working, and then you better not to show the part that's not working, and get all the data ready. If you have to show different kind of role, different login, prepare those accounts first so that you can let people see different kind of things. And obviously focus on the things that you can show to prove that your solution solves the problem you just proposed. That's why the login and sign up never solve any problem. So don't spend too much time on that. Okay, just dive into the most important fun part about the project and show us how to solve the problem. The demo doesn't need to be long, short, concise, but very effective. Okay, live demo. All right. Especially in your project, we want to see the deploy version. We don't want to see the local host. We don't want to see you open some kind of IDE to run it. We want you to go to the browser. Maybe we just use this browser computer here. You just go to that computer, type your domain name, and demo everything from there. Okay, so we want to make sure it's live. All right. So after that two part, that's the most important part about any kind of pitches, problem, solution. Okay, I would say, if people don't like the problem, don't convince that's a problem, or if they don't think the solution is really good, pretty much you lose that pitch. Okay, and if you pass that, it's good. All right, then for the investors, you're gonna start talk about the business side. Okay, so these are the things I want you to start to add to your final pitch. Okay, now the first question you're gonna answer is that, how do I make money with a project? Okay, you should never ever say that this is a personal project, this is a student project, this project is for good. We don't need to make money. Okay, it's a very unprofessional answer. Okay, just don't say that. I don't want to listen to that. I don't make money. Okay, it's not gonna work. Even this is a non-profit project, you still need to make money. Otherwise, who is gonna pay you your server? Okay, otherwise, who is gonna work on it? Once you guys graduate, do you still want to put their time to work on it? You guys all have jobs, right? If you don't do it, who is gonna do it? Are they gonna do that as volunteer? Probably not. All right. So any kind of project, if you want to run it in a professional way, okay, of course, you see this is your hobby project to learn something. I don't care about that one. But then if you do professional project, you have to tell people what is the business model, how this is going to like a grow, sustain itself. Okay. So that question is called a business model. Okay. For software project, yes.
So for our actual like projects, do we need to like actually implement it or just kind of show like?
Yeah, it's called a pitch, like a business plan. Business plan means that you don't have to implement it yet. You don't have to show us that you already generating the money. Obviously, you can show that, that's better. But normally for early stage startups, for example, with the ones who can go to YC, most times they're not generating revenue yet. They don't even have a product yet. So this is like a business plan. Okay. But if you go to later stages, then you got to show concrete model and then how it works. Yeah. So here, the software project, okay, there are only a limited number of business models. Okay. Selling ads, pretty typical. Subscription, okay, $1, one user per month. Okay. Or downloads, okay, or you do some kind of commissions Okay, like if it's a platform, you sell something and you take care of, you charge some of the commission, or other models. Okay, it's not that many choices, but it pretty much based on what you have done, you should come up with the best ways, one or two or three, that could work for your project. Remember, the business model, there's no correct answer. This is not a test. You feel free to choose whatever business model you want to do, and then nobody going to tell you this is right or wrong unless you try it. Okay. From my experience, the business model is one of the toughest questions to answer or to plan. And everyone can have a nice slide to show your business model, but whether that's going to work or not, it's very hard to say until you try it. That's the nature of the software project. That's also the challenge of software project, because when we're using software, we use the internet. Most time we expect things to be free. Okay. But if you ever go to a restaurant, you're never going to expect anything for free. So because of that, generating some revenue, making some money from your software project is a lot more difficult than most of other kind of industries. Okay. So that's why this question is very hard to justify. Sorry, not very hard to answer, but we want you to justify based on what you have seen, what you have learned, what you have decided. So we want justification. We don't need a correct answer because there's no correct answer. Okay. Unless you're like Uber, you already prove it's worse. Okay. So feel free to choose any model, but just don't tell us that you want that model. You got to explain to us briefly why that model works for your project. Here is an example. 10 years ago, I was in Nashville. Okay, before I moved to Cal Poly, I was at Vanderbilt University. We're just chatting about this project. We didn't do it, but there was one point that we were very interested, because at that time, it was around 2013, 14. You guys were very, very young, and that's when people were very passionate about a startup, because there were some of the very successful ones. Okay, like Airbnb was very popular. They already launched this and took off. Instagram, okay, Facebook bought Instagram. I think I didn't talk about this class. A lot of you don't know it. Instagram was acquired by Facebook as a startup. By the time they bought Instagram, I think Facebook spent $1 billion to buy Instagram. Instagram was just an app. It does the image filter. I don't know if you know those. The initial feature of Instagram is that you take a picture, they apply those filters to make your picture looks nicer. Later on, now you have all the social stuff features. In the beginning, they don't have a lot of those. Okay, but that was a very simple app, and then Facebook spent $10 billion to $1 billion to buy it, just because they have users. They have like 20 million users at that time active. So that's when Facebook purchased that. That was a huge thing for the developer community, because everyone feels that I can be the next developer to write that app, because that app wasn't that difficult. I think the time they acquired Instagram team was the team maybe like 10 people, 20 people. I don't know exact number, but it's not going to be a big team because it's just an app. Okay. So people were crazy about startups. I was also very crazy about startups. That's why I just quit Amazon at that time and also started doing different things. And then we started to talk about other ideas. So one day we saw this thing called Eat With. I think the thing still exists. What they're trying to do is that at that time, Airbnb was already very successful. So they're trying to duplicate the idea of Airbnb, but it's for eating. So instead of sleeping in someone else's places, you're going to eat in somewhere else's places. And then they're trying to promote this idea of that, oh, you travel to a place instead of going to a restaurant, why don't you taste some kind of a local, authentic food from homemade food? Right? That was the idea. And I don't know how you guys like this idea. I'm not very interested in eating in some kind of stranger's place. It doesn't feel very comfortable, and I don't trust that food is going to be very good. I don't feel the homemade thing is that interesting. But anyway, so that was a startup. I think that the company is still there, but obviously they're not going to be that huge. However, at that time, we're thinking that, well, people may not like to go to somewhere else place to eat, but there are actually quite a lot of homemade food that people might be interested to buy. Um, Part of the reason we think about this one, you guys here probably don't feel that kind of motivation. And we were back in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, here in Southern California, you can get every type of food, okay, from any kind of country you want, and then pretty good. Okay, pretty much is I'm pretty sure for most of the things you're looking at, okay, whether it's Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, is I think the quality is pretty much close to the thing you can get in your local country. Okay, so pretty much here is a very, very special place. But I don't know how many of you actually live in other states, especially in the uh, you know, maybe in the mid area, maybe even like East Coast, okay, South, Southeast, those areas. It's a very, very different, very different. Okay, it's 10 years ago, even in some of the major cities like Nashville is a pretty big city, you probably only get 4 or 5 different Chinese restaurants and even that you go there, it's not really that good. Okay, so that's why we saw that there are actually people living there. They don't have a restaurant, but they can make very good homemade food. That if they make something really nice, we might be interested to buy something as a to go. Okay, we don't want to go there to eat. So we're thinking, okay, we can borrow this eat with idea, but just focus on the homemade to go food. I think people are doing that today, right? So from different communities, I've seen people doing even here. Anyways, that was the idea. All right, so business model, right? So this business model is pretty straightforward. So we're gonna serve a platform. Okay, the platform people can put their homemade food on the site, and the other ones can go there to make orders to purchase it. Okay. Uh, One very straightforward way is that we as a platform are gonna take some of the commission. So for example, you're selling this kind of pizza for $10. People buy it for $10. I'm gonna take like $2, 20% as a commission charge because we're serving the traffic from the platform. That's the most straightforward way to make money with this kind of platform. But then we thought about this one, we're a little bit worried because if we do that, well, as a seller, as a chef, right? So who sells things here, I mean, you're taking me a lot of the revenue. But the customer need to come to my home to pick up the food. Since we're all local, okay, next time you don't have to go through the platform. You just call me or text me, tell me what you want. I'll just prepare for you. You don't have to make the order from the platform because they're 20% charge, right? The Airbnb doesn't have that problem because Airbnb, you probably not gonna go to the same place again, sometime soon, for travel. But for local food, you probably will go back to visit very often, right? So that's why we feel that if you do a commission charge, that will really, make the seller feel not very comfortable and eventually they're not gonna use your platform. All right. So we saw that what if we do a different model? We don't charge the commission per transaction. We just do kind of a monthly subscription. So as a seller, if you want to sell certain things here, give us like a certain amount of the subscription per month. And we can also break it down different levels. When you don't have a lot of orders, you're not going to pay a lot. But once your order is getting more, then we'll just increase that accordingly. So that way they pay a fixed amount of the fee just in order to keep themselves on the platform. By comparison, we just feel the second approach probably is better than the first one, just because the first one would probably discourage people of using the platform more. Okay, so that's the difference. So again, we never tried it. We don't know if this is right or wrong. At least yourself and your team, you need to be able to justify which one might work better for your solution. Okay, that's what we need. Okay, justification of how you're gonna make money. And then once again, if your team member are not here, tell them, we don't want an answer that I don't make money. I don't need to make money. That's a very bad answer. It's a loser's answer. Okay, any product, you gotta think very carefully on how to generate revenue. Otherwise, you can't really maintain it. Okay, explain the business model. And then next one, you're gonna show to the investor that, well, this is how we're gonna make money, and this is how much money we can make. Because once your model is decided, then you just tell people how big the market is. And then the investor will see that how big you can become one day, how much money I can get as an investor once I put money into your company by taking some part of the equity for company, right? So immediately after the business model, you're going to explain the market size. And based on the market size, then you do a multiplication, then you can get the final like revenue for a company or the valuation for a company. For the market side, you probably heard some of the promotional terms from the articles, from the news. They will say, the people talk about AI agent. AI agent is a growing field, and it's estimated to be like a $50 billion industry. And they're going to talk about robotics in hospitals. There is a potential like $20 billion in the market there. You're going to see a lot of those kind of numbers. In fact, some of the pitches still use that. But I would say for the early stage startup, that's a very, very bad answer or bad way to talk about the market. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, first of all, you don't know whether it's 10 billion, 20 million, billion, or 50 billion. When you talk about $1 billion thing, well, you can name any numbers because nobody's gonna prove and nobody can validate it. And even there is a $50 billion market, so what? Okay, how does that relate to you? Who knows that you can actually get there? It doesn't mean anything. Okay, don't throw those kind of big numbers. It's not impressive. Okay, we want a better estimate. We want a more like a reasonable justification and show us why you think the market size is that. How do you get that number? Okay, but you can't just say, oh, I look at this article. The article said it's $20 billion market. Again, it's not useful, not interesting. This is what you need to do. Um, Back to that project idea. Okay, we're thinking about like this platform that allows you to sell the homemade food for people to buy to go. Okay, so we're trying to estimate how big that market is, how many people will use this one. Okay, and because eventually we thought, well, maybe the model is that we charge only the sellers as a subscription. So we got to figure out how many sellers there are. Okay. And in order to answer the question, you got to first also figure out, okay, who are my target group users or the audience? And it's very difficult to just to say how many people who want to make some homemade food, sell it online. That's very hard to estimate. I don't know how to start with that. Okay. But especially in the United States, I think most people won't need that. Back the situation I discussed, if you're international and you want to get your own local food in the US or you don't have the good restaurant, so why don't we start from that group? And there's so many of those groups. We're just start from someone we know very well. We'll start from the Chinese group. This is what we did for the estimate. So we thought that there are two things we need to consider. One, if people have full-time job, very likely they don't want to do this. They don't have time to do this one. Okay, so how do we know who has jobs, who don't have jobs? Well, this is the public data that you can always look at the unemployment rate. And this was back in 2009. It was very high because that was right after, actually in the middle of the previous, recession. Okay, but that was very young. You guys probably don't remember too much. 2008, 2009, I was a very, very bad recession. They pretty much it's all the jobs are frozen. Okay, there's no jobs. There's nothing huge going wrong. It's just the job market. I remember very clear. Job market all like frozen, and all the houses are pricing go down very, very badly because you see everywhere is selling the house. The problem is that people cannot pay back the mortgage, and the banks get back the house and then they just sell it, and because there's so many sellers, and then the prices go down and down and down. So it was the best time to buy a house in 2009, 2010. Anything you buy right now probably already double, okay, maybe tripled. So it was a good time, and but not a good time for employment. Okay, my classmate at that time, I was still in grad school. I haven't graduated. I was one guy graduated, and then he was looking for a job. He has a master's degree in computer science, and then there's basically no openings. And one day I saw he was searching jobs in Craigslist. Okay. Do you guys know Craigslist? Yeah. So, you think about what you're looking for in Craigslist, but he was looking for a software job. There are some that like he needs some helper with a assembly a PC or something like that. And he was trying to find a job there. But yeah, it took them a long time. But the good thing they recovered pretty quickly. I think it started recovering in 2010, 2011 very quickly. And then after that, it was like the golden time for the next 10, 15 years. And until now, I won't call we're in a recession, but We're just in a very special point that so many things are changing. Well, anyway, so those the unemployment number. We estimate how many people at least have the time to do it, right? Because they don't have a job to do it. Another thing, we look at the age structure, because the young people, you guys won't do this because you don't even know how to cook. And the older people, they're too old to do this one. So we are going to focus on the mid age group, okay, 25 to 54. Okay, so that group of people. And we started to estimate. I think at that time, we do some research. Okay, 3.8 million Chinese people in the US. So times 50. Oh, I think we're talking about a female. Okay, most likely female will like to do this one. 40% is that mid-age group, 40%. 10% is the unemployment rate, so who don't have jobs. Okay, so that gave us 76,000 people who are qualified or more likely to become a chef to sell some food they cook online. All right. So that's how you do justification. And obviously, if you start to do more detailed verification, you probably find a lot of flaws from my calculation. It doesn't matter. Okay, we're not looking for correct answer. We're looking for how you justify, how you think through this one. And trust me, by thinking about this one, it helps you to better, go through the whole business. Okay, to let you to really plan and think about if this is even feasible. We saw not everyone going to do this one, right? So we estimate, like, say, the ideal case, 10% of this group of people eventually decided to join the platform and then run this as a small business. So that gave us 7,600 people. All right. Just by looking at this one, you will feel that it's not a big number. Okay. Although we're only looking at a Chinese group, but even that, it doesn't sound like a very big business. Okay. Depending how you want to make money, okay, you can say you charge a monthly subscription, you can get a number, or you can say, oh, what if I wanted the commission? So this is so we estimate, let's say on average, everyone is selling $100 per day at the revenue in the platform. So on the platform, we're generating $760,000 revenue per day. Obviously, that means that this many people are all making some kind of money. And we say, oh, what if we want to do the commission? I want to do a 2% commission. As a platform, we are making $50,000 per day. Well, that's obviously the ideal, perfect case. Okay, so it's not easy to get there, right? But let's say if this number works, then you have some better estimate on, okay, is that worth to do it? Is this one, good for my expectation? And if this one group works for Chinese, and next one I'm gonna work on, Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, how many numbers those are. And then you can start to make more detailed projections and show it to the investors. Once again, the numbers are not necessarily correct, but I gave you my mindset on how I get there step by step. So this is something I also need everyone to think about it. Okay, because once you have the numbers plus that business model you proposed, then you can tell people how much money you can make. That money is going to represent the valuation. For example, you're generating this one is you're pretty much generating, $3-4 million per year, right? That's your revenue. And then and the investor going to value a company based on some kind of factors, times 4, times 8, times 10. If a tech company, normally they're going to value it more, and they'll value your company, for example, times 10 is going to be $30 million for your whole valuation of your current company, if you're reaching to that revenue. Today, if you're an AI company, they're going to time 20 times 40 probably. They don't just look at this number, but that's the baseline. Okay. So however people evaluate your company, that depending on the industry, depending on a lot of other factors. Okay. All right. So that's the market size and value. Okay. So these two slides, very important just to show and capture the core part of the business side. Okay. Any kind of investor pitch, you gotta show these things very carefully and in great detail. So my suggestion is, as an early stage startup, you show the justification. Don't worry too much about the whether the numbers are correct or not. All right. And then after that, not because you're a startup, right? So people want to care about, yes, that 7,600 people who want to sell food online, not bad. Okay. How do you get there? All right. So that's you're gonna talk about your marketing, your promotional plan. That's the assignment I gave you last week. Okay. Get your users. Where do you get started? This is a very, very difficult thing to do for any kind of startups. Otherwise, it's not called startups. Think about Uber, how hard it is in the beginning. They are a platform, and you gotta have drivers. If you don't have drivers, then you're gonna in trouble. People sign up, go there, they can't find any car, they're never gonna open your app again. Okay. Now you got a driver there, but the driver gotta be driving and waiting, be ready at a time. And what if in the beginning you don't have a lot of customers to request, and then they work for 1 or 2 days, they just waste a lot of gas and they're not gonna drive it again? You're gonna in trouble. Very difficult. Just think about how hard that is. Airbnb is a lot easier because Airbnb, you just need to list your apartment, your house is there. You don't have to stay there. You just list it there. Whoever want to book it, just book it. Uber probably is the most difficult kind of platform to run in the very beginning. That's why you read some of the stories. I think the founders in the beginning, they're just going to be drivers, drive around. Okay. In fact, maybe 7 years ago, we had a brother. They made a very good app that does the on-campus ride. Like you request a ride, I give you a ride to the garage, and then you gave me a parking spot. So that solution, we saw multiple versions of this one, but 7, 8 years ago, the two brothers they built a very good app. One is iOS version, one is Google version. Then they launch it. They launch it, and then they actually serve as a driver for maybe a week. They print some of the flyers on campus. But one time that the police department doesn't want them to do it because they feel that this is not only is there some kind of a liability issue, but also it creates some internal campus traffic. So they don't want them to do it. So they kind of stopped. But in the beginning, well, you just need to think about how do you get that first set of users. So my suggestion is the same thing, just like how you plan for the business market size. Show us a detailed plan. Okay, don't just show us a graph. Okay, this year we're targeting 1,000 users. Next year we're gonna the project to be 10,000 users. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, show us how we're gonna get that 100 users, and starting from how do you get the first 10 users. First 10 users isn't too difficult because your team has 4 people. You just need to find one more user to try it, and then you got a 10. And what about first 20? Well, everyone try to share that with other friend. And first 50 and until you got 100, right? And then from there, you're gonna probably not just using friend because your friend will be limited. You're gonna go to events, go to different classes. As I showed you, people actually go to the board rather than URL to promote themselves. You got other ways, but break it down into milestones. Okay. That way you won't feel this thing is very overwhelming, but also it's much more convincing to the investors. They know you can execute. All right. So that's the whole point of this kind of a slide deck. We want action plans, a very detailed, concrete plans instead of showing us all the big numbers. Because investors are not stupid and they don't, you're not if you're Elon Musk, then he's going to present differently. He's only going to talk about the big things because they know he can deliver. But you are just young, you don't have experiences. People want to see something more tangible and convincing. All right, so the marketing plan, the same thing. You want to show us some of the plans that you can get to the first 100, 200 users. Normally, you show a competitor analysis. Okay, this is very typical because any kind of project, okay, there's no exception. You will find there are things done. Most of the time, you will find exactly the same idea, exactly the same feature as you propose has been done, has been running for a while. Okay. First thing I can tell you, just don't get discouraged. That's very, very typical. It's not a problem. It's not end of the world. Because if you think about it, if this thing has been done, has been there for such a long time, why you are still coming with the same problem? Okay. Either you don't know the problem, the solution, or the solution just doesn't work any somehow. Okay. You just don't like it. Okay. Either way, that means you can still do it. Okay. It's never going to be a problem. And in fact, you should realize that if you see a lot of other existing platforms there, It only shows that you are hitting the right problem. You're not the only one who saw the problem. And it means it's a real problem. It's a good thing. Okay. So don't be affected by this. Just, from our class, you guys already saw there's 3, 4 different solutions to do all the kind of scheduling kind of thing, right? Every semester is the same thing. Because that's good. That just means that you guys are really looking at it and sharing the same issues and problems. If you can solve it very well, and that's called opportunity. And also, I will tell you, these ideas you guys propose are nothing new. Every semester, we get students propose the same thing, but people are still trying to build this type of thing. That means there's still not a final ultimate solution to solve it. Okay. But as an investor pitch, you want to at least list some of the key competitors and show them how yours is better than the others. And this is pretty easy. You probably see this kind of a graph. Okay. List some of the features, and product A has only one, product B has two, and mine, I have all of them. Right. So uh, uh, just in a very concise way to demonstrate this. Finally, I want you to start talking about your team. Um, for the professional world or investors, I show so many slides. Um, Honestly, I would say for the majority of the cases, this slides might be the most important slides. Because honestly, for all the investors, they know one fact very, very clearly. It's just not about ideas. Okay, ideas are important, problems are important. Okay, but who could actually build the solution, and who could actually come up with the best model, who could actually execute it, promote it, and then run it, and manage everything very well. It all depends on humans. Okay, it depends on the team. The same set of things, there could be a lot of people who are doing that, but the ones who can make it successful, who can take it off, it's only limited. You have to admit, sometimes you have luck, sometimes you have money, but a lot of time it's just because that group people's ability, skill set, execution, and everything, right? So investors are most of the time they're investing in people. Okay. If they see that this is a very successful entrepreneur who have, done multiple startup, who have especially run them successfully, whether it went to IPO or sold their companies, that's the best thing to show to the investor. What you want to do next doesn't matter too much, because the truth is that, once you have one thing successful, it's a lot easier for them to make another successful company, another successful startup, a lot easier. I personally have that kind of experiences. I share with you this mobile AR company we did back in 2012. Okay, we got a great team. We got a professor, we got a very talented, smart people. We got investors also helping us on the business side. It turned out now when I look at it back, okay, most of the people in that team don't have much startup experiences, not to mention the successful startup experiences. That was my first startup I work on. Also was the very first one for most of other professors. Even on the business side, a couple of them they have Harvard MBAs, but they also never ran big companies and at least went through the whole success of startups. And the investors are also very nice, but they are also very young. As it was a new like a funding, so everyone didn't have experiences. So that's why now when I look at back that company, a lot of things didn't go very well. The failure was actually very, very expected. But from then on, we started to do the next one, which was the indoor navigation. We actually did a lot better than the first one. We used less money, less people, less time to create better results and very quickly. And nowadays I'm still being involved in some of the companies. We're running the educational startup. Um, Everything is much better than before. Okay, so now if you ask me right now to do another startup, any kind of business, even you ask me to open a restaurant, I feel much more confident and comfortable to do it than 10 years ago. It's just because of experiences. Okay. So the team is so important. But I'm not trying to judge you guys. Oh, well, you don't have experience, you're not going to success. No, there are always young entrepreneurs who can success very, very early. So that's why while you don't have that kind of experiences, you really want to highlight the specialties you have. Okay. So I want every team to put some efforts to decorate these slides. Okay. You're gonna show who you are, you're all the team members, but we don't want just listen, oh, I'm a junior CS major, I'm a senior CS major, DS minor. Um, we don't need that, okay? So we know it. You want to show some special things about yourself. I'm a ex Google intern back in 2024. Or my dad works in the AWS, so he teach me a lot of cloud computing stuff. Or my family runs a franchise business for the past 10 years. You want to show some special things about yourself, the things that can be very helpful for you to run this as a startup, as a business. Okay, figure out that special points, okay, about yourself, about your team, and try to sell it. Okay, that's very important. And one day you talk to people, investors, you really want to make sure people are confident on your team because this is way more important than the idea stuff. Okay. All right. So just from now on, just don't worry about, something has been done. It's always been done. You don't have to even search. Nowadays, I don't even search it. It doesn't matter as long as you're now using it. Just go ahead and build it. You just need to build a better way, work harder on the promotion, get more users. Any kind of a project, there are market shares. Okay, like you talk about like a DoorDash or Uber Eats. There are a couple of other things. If you compare the product, what's the difference? I don't think there are any differences. But you have to say some people start early, some people actually did better, so they got a better and bigger market share. Okay, so the team here is really important. Um, Normally at the end, if you can show some kind of successive evidence, okay, that will really convince the investors. And the best evidence is how much money you have made. If you already make a lot of profit, well, you're already successful. That's great. Normally that happens in the later stages. Okay, you go to IPO, you want to raise more funding, or you show people I already make some revenue. I haven't made money yet, but I can already sell. Okay. Or you can say, well, just within the past half year, I have got how many number of users, how many active users, right? For most of the software project, you want to show this type of evidence. All right. And then finally, for the investor, normally you want to show how much money you want to raise. For this one, it's not important for our pitch. Is that you want to say, well, I need like $1 million and then as exchange for 20% of my company. If you look at a Shark Tank, that's how normally they start with their pitch. Okay, then the amount of money you're asking, as a return, how much equity you want to give, right? But for that number, normally you need to have a plan. So if you want X dollar amount of money, then what are you going to use for? Okay, I want to use that for marketing. I want to hire developers. I want to do servers. Your number needs to justify with a goal. And then this goal normally is just for 1 year. For most of the startups these years, the investors expect you to do another raise of funding within 1 or 2 years. So you don't have to plan this for 5 years. It's too slow. So they give you one round of funding, and they want to see one jump from now, like 1 year, around like 1 year time. So you want to say that next year I want to get to 10,000 users. This is how I'm going to do it. This is the resource I needed. And this is how much money I need. So that's why I'm asking that money to give it to me. As an exchange, I gave you a certain amount of equity. That's how they do this kind of a formula and justification. All right. So this one is not too important, but the previous slides I mentioned here are all very important. Okay. So I'll share this kind of a outline in our yeah in Canvas. Okay, but follow this one to make the final presentation. All right. Any questions? Yes.
You're talking about your team and like yourself. What if you feel like you don't have anything to talk about that's interesting?
No, that's why you gotta put some efforts really to think hard on that one. Because one thing I think you should catch something is because we ask you to come up with the problems that from your life, your experience, right? I can remember some of the team did the photography, right? Now, obviously, you guys are already doing that. That's a huge. Otherwise, you're not true to the topic. So I would say most of the time, because the topic is related with your experience, there had to be something that you can find that can can make it more convincing that you as a builder or a creator can have a better chance to build a better solution. Yeah. No, just don't be humble. Okay. Always come up with something to sell yourself. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. One of the things I want you to do this year is that for the evidence, okay, I do want to push you guys hard on the users. Okay. First time when I do this one, people just show me like the user in the database. I don't feel that means anything. Okay. The sign up stuff. Okay. So first of all, we want more. I think we talked about like a 40, 50 users this time. Another thing is I want you to guys to show me, I was thinking maybe to show me some kind of a the Google Analytics data, okay? How many of you have used Google Analytics? Okay, so this is a tool that helps you to track the website traffic. So if you want to see, oh, how many people are visiting my site, um, where they've come from, you can just sort of track it. So I'll show you example. This is the Coding Mind website. Okay, so the website is this. Yeah, this the like a online the coding classes, everything. Okay. Anyway, so here you can see the traffic. So this is some of the dashboard. You got active users. This is per week. Okay, you got a 1,700 active users, and how many cons, key events, those. But then this one give a lot of detail. You can even find where they come from. Okay, so you go here. Uh, There should be yeah, let's see, view countries. Yeah. And you can see where they all come from, and you can see even more detailed. I think the graph you can see. There should be a way to zoom in. They changed, I haven't used this one for a long time. For the city, all right. Yeah, a lot of those. But anyway, so you can see this one gave you a lot of good data. They can even tell you where does the user come from? Is that by search or by direct link or by other things? All right. So I think it's called acquisition. You can see what pages they're looking at most of the time and how long they stay there. Yeah, this one here. Direct link, most of the time they just find the link somewhere, just directly click on it. There are some searches they go. That's a good thing, right? So that means you're doing good on the search engine. And there's some paid services. I don't know where the paid service come from. Yeah, I gotta look at this one. But yeah, the search is very useful. Let me see here. And for the search, how do you? It's very hard to. Yeah, they change this a lot. So I don't know how to click on this one, okay, but you're supposed to see the keyword they're searching that lead to this website. So they track a lot of things. Okay, anyway, you got a point. It's pretty easy. Okay, nice tool to see. So what I want to do is I want you to show us some real stuff. Okay, at least you got to show me like you got how many users go here. You can specify a range, so 1 month, and how many are unique IPs, the city stuff. Okay, we want to see some real stuff. And also it's a really nice thing for you to track. Okay, so after today, you need to add this one to your project as soon as you can. Pretty easy. Okay, let me show you how to do it. So this one for free, you just need to create a new one. Okay, so let's see. I have not used this one for a while. And let me see, how do I create one? Okay, let's go to admin. All right, account, create. I'll create a new account. This one will be our cost. Yeah, I'll just do a 100. Project. The URL, we don't have that yet, right? So no, I'm gonna use that one. Yeah, maybe I'll use this one. All right, so that's the site. Okay, so they're gonna give you this little JavaScript code here. Okay, so yeah, so this is a new way they added. How do they use Google tag? Oh, that one already have it. Hmm. Do I already have that one? Yeah, so this is the one that we already added. Okay, so I'll use a different one. So this is this little piece of code. Okay, if you add it here, all right, and then just put it to the bottom part of your HTML. Okay, I'm gonna use this one. That's the budget project. Okay, I'll just put it here. Yeah, just little JavaScript code. All right. So once you have it, and then if we start to run it, okay, this one, let me make sure that the code is already there. Yeah, that part, they have ID. So basically what happens is that every time you load a page, they grab all the local, your browser information and then send it back to Google server. So that's how they can collect all the information. You start to do this and then you use this one, and then sooner or later, you can start to see. Yeah, this one, they need a domain. That's the part that, let me see. Okay. Um, okay, so oh yeah, so they can already detect it. See, there's an active user right now with one, because here I'm actually visiting the site. Okay, so if I'm create another window, I don't know if that's gonna count another one. Okay, it doesn't count, but yeah, they have some kind of live data. You can see that later on, the longer you have, and then the more detail you can collect. Pretty easy. Okay, Google Analytics. I'm gonna send another announcement, add it to your project. Okay, so yeah, so that's a second user, and then in the final presentation, we want to show some kind of a real data from here. Okay, show us like how many traffic, different IPs or those things like this. And then you can track this one across different pages, not just a home page, a lot of other pages. Okay. This will help you to understand how users are using your platform. Where did they stuck? Where did they stop? Okay, things like this. All right. So that's all we have for today. Okay. So share this one with your team as soon as you can and to work on it. Okay. This month, as I mentioned, just work on your project and promotion. Okay. Both important. Okay. So that's all for today.